Hello everyone, Johnny Mind here. And today, as you've seen from the title, the thumbnail, and I also made a post where I asked you what games you'd like me to play potentially for a future Let's Learn with a certain video game series. Of course, I can't guarantee that I'll play them or anytime soon, considering also their potential difficulty. But I'd like to hear your suggestions. But yes, today we are playing Kirby's Adventure. So we can open now the Famicom app, Family Computer app. And here it is. But just like for Zelda, first and foremost, we'll study the kanji that are in the title. Of course, we also have hiragana, as you can see in this case, for the particles, all no, the possessive particle, and also called postposition, just like prepositions in English, Spanish, Italian, and so on, just that they don't come before a word, but after. So yes, the possessive particle no. Then we also have katakana for kabi, Kirby's Japanese name. Ka, since in Japanese there isn't a R sound, it becomes a long A. And then the stylization that the long E becomes B and then a small E. But now we'll focus on the kanji. So let's bring out this as usual. And I also have ready the the Kirby Wiki page for Kirby's Adventure, so we can easily copy the kanji here and then put them into Wiktionary. And we start with this one, or well, we start with the parts that compose this one. First and foremost, let's see, up here. Now I think that if I click here, we get... no, it should work. Yes, it's this one. If I click, since this element is the radical of the character, the part that specifies usually its meaning, but also is used to categorize it for dictionaries. And so if I clicked here, we will get a list of Chinese of kanji with this radical. But if I click here, it should open, yes, the page of this character. Let's see, first and foremost, it's stroke order, as you can also see with the animation. As usual, we start from here, top to bottom, in this case, left to right, then left to right, and left to right. Top to bottom, left to right, and we go down. Left to right, left to right. As you can also see here, the stroke order, and also with the arrows. Quite an important character, since it's a pictogram of the sun, as you can see also here in its original form, its oldest one. And as it says there, a dot or line was simply added in the center to distinguish it from other characters that are practically circles, squares, circles that then become squares or rectangles. But while its meaning is technically also sun, its most common meaning now in Japanese is day, as we can, and it has several readings. The one, let's first and foremost see the strictly Japanese ones, starting with the one for day. He, unaccented. Yes, it means day, days, but also technically sun, and so on, of course, extended meanings. Then we also have ka, which is, doesn't even find it like that, of course. But as we'll see, it's the counter for days, as in and also the day of the month, but we won't see those combinations now since they're quite difficult. And then of course we also have the voiced variants with the Dakuten when in compounds, and also changes, well, still in compounds, but also when used, for example, as a counter, there could be such changes. And then we have the, and those were the strictly Japanese pronunciations, readings, kunyomi. And then we have the those from Chinese, onyomi. First and foremost, nichi, which is also an abbreviation for Sunday, because it's Sunday in Japanese is Nichiyobi, day of the week of the sun. And so you might find the Nichi on its own as an abbreviation. Again, also for the suffix and counter for suffix, as in nth day of the month, or counter of 4 days. And last but certainly not least, an abbreviation for Japan, since Japan in Japanese is said Nihon, or also the other pronunciation, but nowadays you'll more often than not hear Nihon, but also Nippon, which can be heard also in other languages, and is the origin of Japan, also of the term Japan, although with different, of course, different pronunciations, and because there's also the matter that of how it was pronounced in Chinese and so on. So yes, Nichi, it's the go on, so the older one. And then we also have Jitsu, doesn't, of course, it doesn't find that. But jitsu is another onyomi. In this case, the kanyomi, the kanon, the more recent one, and can be found in compounds. I think, for example, Tojitsu should be. As for, let's check also its accent in this case, which means the day in question, the appointed day, that very day, and so on. So when, and also other similar compounds. So yes, unfortunately, there's this additional difficulty of the several readings of characters of kanji in Japanese. But we'll see that there are tricks to see when to use one or the other. And of course, if in doubt, you can always check a dictionary. Okay, now we've seen the one for he, for sun/day, but also Sunday as the abbreviation, as we've seen. Now let's see the other element of this, the character seen in the title, which is this one. There's actually a different stroke order depending on in Japan compared to Chinese. And yes, in Japan it's like this. We start here, the slanted, then left to right, then top to bottom, left to right, left to right. Slanted, left to right, top to bottom, left to right, left to right. As you can see, maybe there isn't the stroke. Okay, there's the stroke order of Chinese, so we won't check it. And this is an ideogrammic compound, or simply, honestly, also a pictogram of a bud sprouting from the ground, as you can see here. And that's the reason why this kanji has, this one has a lot of readings, but we'll only check some of the most important ones. Its fundamental meaning is life, to live, and for example, one of its most important strictly Japanese readings, kunyomi, is ikiru, accented, which means, yes, to live, to exist. Then we can ignore most of these ones. Well, there's also, for example, this one, haeru, which means to grow, to spring up, to sprout. As we've seen, makes sense since it was a bud sprouting from the ground. Haeru, also accented. Then there are actually, the one we have seen are the intransitive forms. There are also the transitive ones, ikasu, and hayasu, but let's ignore them for now. The other, another reading is umareru, this one unaccented, which means to be born. There's also the transitive version umu, but don't mind it for now. The most fundamental ones, I'd say, are ikiru, umareru, and then also as an additional one, quite useful to remember also, considering that it's the original meaning of the kanji is haeru. So to live, the intransitive forms to live, to be born, to sprout, to grow, to spring up. Then we have an additional one that can be useful. Nama, accented on the first one. It's a noun, but also an adjective. In this case, it's not you have to, as shown here, it says no adjective, and so you actually use no to put it before another noun to modify it. And its meaning is raw, uncooked, fresh. And of course then natural and so on. An example for it. So to say, let's see if I can find the word. For example, if we want to say, yes, draft beer. Sorry, but it didn't immediately come to mind in English instead of Japanese, since and even more so since I don't drink alcohol myself. But yes, draft beer is literally, it's nama biru. We had nama as a kind of a prefix, or at least it's a compound word, with biru, from Dutch, according to this, beer, but it's the same as in English, beer. Long, because pay attention to that, as biru short is the abbreviation for building from English. Quite the difference from beer to building. And yes, so we have an example of nama. Okay, then we have the onyomi readings, those from Chinese, which are se. As a reminder, you'll more often than not hear it as long e. Some still pronounce it as a. So se is the one also in sensei, teacher, literally the one living before the other person, and so if one, because he has lived before the other person, is more experienced. And then we have the other reading, sho. For example, it should be in isho. Which combines sho with, yes, an accented, combines it with ichi, one life, and so the meaning is whole life, a lifetime, all through life, literally one life, one existence, and so on. With these two elements, we finally have can combine them to have the kanji we have seen in the title, which is the one for star and also planet. Those are the meaning in Chinese, but it's the same in Japanese. Star is the fundamental one, but also heavenly body and so also planet in general. Its readings are hoshi in strictly Japanese, and is the one that not sure why it's not showing up here. Maybe because I changed okay, should be fine now. Hoshi, yes, an accented. Yes, star usually excluding the sun because apart from, as we have seen, there's also another word for sun, the most common one for taiyo. And planet, usually excluding Earth, because of course there's a word for Earth, chikyu. But combined with other parts, we get the names of the other planets, as we'll see at later. But yes, Oshi on its own, usually star, and it's the one we see in the title. Hoshi no Kabi is the name of the Kirby, as the of the Kirby series in Japanese. Hoshi no Kabi, Kirby of the stars, and also of the Kirby anime. Then we have the Onyomi readings. Of course, they're the same as the one of the kanji for to live, and all the other meanings, because it's a phonosemantic compound. So there's a part that's strictly phonetic. More often than not, is also the radical used to search it in dictionaries. In our case, the sun. And then we have the other part, which is phonetic. Some say also semantic, but definitely at the very least phonetic. And yes, it gives the readings in Chinese, and so the Chinese readings also in Japanese, gon and kanon, and the other ones. So sei and sho. The one you'll more often hear, almost exclusively, I'd say in this case, is sei. For example, without seeing if we combine it with wakuse, we have the word, as a reminder, let's check also the accent, unaccented. As a reminder, since the is between two unvoiced consonants, it's barely heard, if at all. And so wakuse. And wakuse is the word for planet. Okay, so we have seen the first kanji. Let's now check the following one. Well, it makes more sense to see this one first. We're not going strictly in order because as you see in a second, it makes more sense this way. So we'll see this. It's a pictogram or a ideogrammic compound. We have two parts. The one above, it makes more sense also because it's quite similar to the one for sun, day. The stroke order is like this. We start here, the slanted stroke, and then practically write the kanji for sun. So slanted, top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom as a single stroke, left to right, left to right. Slanted, top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom, left to right, left to right. Not sure if, of course, nope, there isn't the... And despite being so similar now to the one for sun, day, it's actually quite different in its original form. Not completely clear. Some say there are various theories, but one of them, and the one that makes the most sense, in my opinion, is an acorn, because of its usage also in other kanji, as we'll eventually see. And because, and then it became, from acorn, there's another kanji for acorn in modern Japanese. But because of the color of an acorn inside, it became the kanji for white. So we have in strictly Japanese kunyomi, shiro, accented on the first one, white, as in the color white. But just like the other colors we have seen so far, you can add the I to make the adjective, shiroi, accented on the second one, because it's an accented adjective. On the second to last one, to be precise. Then there's also this form only found in some compounds, shira. Don't mind it for now. And let's ignore the other kunyomi readings. Then we have the Chinese readings, onyomi. First and foremost, haku, which is the one you find practically all the time in modern Japanese. And it's because it's also the most recent one, the canon. But there's also the gon, byaku, and it's the one you might have heard in Naruto for the Byakugan, white eyes. Okay, so now we can see the other part of our kanji. This one, the kanji for water. First, let's check the stroke order. We start at the center, top to bottom, with this additional part. Then we go here, left to right and slanted. Then here, slanted, and then last the slanted here. So the fundamental order is the central stroke first, then the part on the left, and those on the right, of course, from top to bottom, then top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom, slanted, top to bottom slanted, top to bottom slanted. As you can see, also here with the arrows. And yes, as we can see as soon, okay, the original pictogram, water as in a river, water flowing in general. You'll also find it written in other ways as the radical, but we'll see them when they show up, and it will definitely show up quite often. But yes, this is the kanji for water. And so we have first and foremost the strictly Japanese word mizu. Pretty sure we have seen it before. I think it was the water of life in the Legend of Zelda. Either way, this is the word for water. Mizu, unaccented. Especially cool or cold, because there's a specific word for hot water, yu. And then, of course, actually other extended meanings like liquid in general, and so on. And then we have the onyomi, luckily the same for both gon and kanon, sui. And if we check here, it's accented on the first one. And is also, found also as water, as in the fifth of the 5 elements in Chinese tradition. Shaved ice, but honestly, I haven't seen that much before. But most importantly, as an abbreviation for Wednesday, because Wednesday is said suiyobi in Japanese, the day of the week of the water, or to be more precise, of Mercury, because sui combined with se, as we have seen, which we have just seen before. Never mind that there's another one, unaccented also. Both unaccented, so unfortunately it's not helpful, but that's one. Such homonyms, words with the same pronunciation, are one of the reasons why Japanese still uses kanji. But yes, when you combine literally the star planet we have seen of the water is actually Mercury. And so we have also the day of the week of Mercury, Wednesday. Okay, now we can finally combine them to have our kanji found in the title. We can quickly see its original form. I show it its stroke order like this. Simply, you first write white kanji, and then under it the one for water. So as long as you remember how to write them individually, then combining them is quite easy. And also, of course, if you remember the general rules of writing kanji, and also apply to kana. Okay, we can see its pronunciations. First and foremost, the kunyomi, which is izumi, unaccented, literally mi from mizu, which we have just seen, water, and izu, not used in this form in modern Japanese, but is an ancient form for the verb deru, to exit, and so water that exits, and yes, so its meaning is spring, fountain. And of course, with this pronunciation is the word we see in the title. Izumi refers to the fountain, as we'll see then, of dreams. It's onyomi. There's also the gon zen, but that's not the most common one. The most common one is sen. Don't remember now a compound word with it. Let's see if I can find it. Well, technically you can combine it with sui to get sensui for a garden, pond, miniature lake, or again fountain, and other ones. But as you can see here, it's not considered a common word, but it exists. Just to have an example of a compound word with sen. Then we continue with the word before the fountain of dreams, and so we see, copying it here, the kanji for dreams. Since it's more complex, well, we'll still see it, but in this case, just quickly, and it's not as fundamental as the ones we have seen before. It's interesting in this case to see that this is its form, its shape now in modern Japanese. Technically, we have the grass. The part above means, well, I can make it bigger, means grass. Then we have eye on its side. We have seen, I'm pretty sure, eye before, but in case we might go back and quickly see it. Then we have a cover, something that covers. And last but not least, this part, which is the kanji for evening. As you might have guessed from its shape, from moon. But as we can see here, the original form of these characters was quite different. We get a person with its eye in evidence, and also some hands, and then a bed. Only later it got changed like this. We get above the eye some eyebrows. The person itself becomes this part, which then is our cover, and they added the moon, this kind of moon, which is the one for evening, as we'll see, there's another moon, which is the one nowadays used for strictly for moon and month. And so yes, it's actually quite different. We'll just see quickly the characters for I, which was present in the original, and also is still present as is in the modern form, and the one for moon as in night, evening, as they are some fundamental ones. First we have I, quite easy, as soon as, sorry, didn't open it correctly, okay. So you can see, same as the one for day, we start here, then left to right, top to bottom, left to right, and left to right. Top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom, left to right, left to right. So an additional stroke compared to the one for sun / day. As you can see here, when written by hand, you can not connect these strokes, but when printed, you definitely see it connected. So it's just a difference between the two, but doesn't change anything in practice. And it used to be, as you can see, a pictogram of an eye. Then it got turned on its side, rotated by 90 degrees. In Japanese, it's strictly Japanese pronunciation. Kunyomi is me accented. We've seen the word before. There's also ma, but that's only found in compounds. As you see, when it comes to the strictly Japanese, the kunyomi, there are these differences with a vowel for the word nowadays used, and the other one in compounds. And then we have the gon, moku. Let's see if we can find it. There are also other meanings to me extended. Quite useful one will be as a suffix for ordinal numbers, but we won't see it now. But that's also why it becomes order here in moku, as accented on the first syllable, item, and then a counter, but not often used because it's for go pieces. And also the other onyomi pronunciation, boku. The most common one in this case is moku, so keep that one in mind. Me, as the strictly Japanese one for I, and then in Chinese compounds especially, moku. Okay, we can now see the one for evening, moon, night. The order is easy. As you can see, we start up here, slanted, left to right slanted as a single stroke, and then this comma, big comma in the middle. Slanted, left to right slanted as a single stroke, the comma in the middle. So practically quite similar to ta, even though to katakana ta, even though it doesn't come from this character, but it's quite similar. The original form, well, I show you also the stroke order here with the arrows, since it's available. And it was a pictogram of the moon, of a moon crescent. And of course, there's also the other kanji here for moon, the one used nowadays for moon month, but we won't see it now. This one, its kunyomi is yu unaccented for evening. Then technically there's also this word which adds simply a be after it, yube, accented on the be, which is a word for the evening, but poetical. It says here, yes, this you won't hear it often. For example, in the case of the evening of a special event, and technically also for last night. This is the meaning you'll more often hear than not than for yube, but usually written with other kanji, which actually mean last night. So then we have the canon Jaku. Don't think it's much used, if at all. Also shaku, but not. There's another kanji which is more often used. In compounds, you more often than not, in Chinese compounds, you more often than not find the canon seki. Don't remember which words we can find with that. That's fine. Let's see if I can find one at least. Yeah, this is the other yube, the one you more often than not hear last night with other kanji. Yeah, you'll more often than not hear you as in this compound yugata unaccented, and it's the early evening, dusk. Also in some compounds. I wanted to find one that had the Chinese reading. Honestly, it's not found that often, so yeah, in those words, but yeah, just if you ever find it in a Chinese compound, it's most certainly seki. I've never heard it as jaku, to be honest. Okay, and last but not least, we can finally see the kanji for dream. We have seen its actual origin. Can quickly see again how you write it. You go left to right here, top to bottom, and this is the part that's now grass. Then we have the eye, top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom as a single stroke, top to bottom, and then we close it with the left to right at the bottom, the eye on its side. Funny enough, actually its original form. Then we have this cover with this inverted comma, and then as a single stroke, this left to right, and kind of a comma, but not slanted, maybe it's better. the cover, which actually was, as we have seen, the original part of the person, and then the additional moon, and you simply write it just like the kanji for evening, and so like this, slanted, left to right, slanted as a single stroke, and a comma. As for its pronunciations, we have Yume. No, actually accented on the second one. Okay, so I didn't remember it correctly. Then I second guessed myself. So it's actually Yume and means dream. The strictly Japanese pronunciation, kunyomi. Then we technically have to go on, but the one usually used, the other one I'm not sure if it's used at all in modern Japanese, it's mu. As for an example, in to say nightmare, we put before it the word for the kanji and the word for bed. We won't see it in detail now, and which is aku, and so we get akumu, literally bad dream, and so nightmare. Okay, now we can see the remaining ones. First and foremost, these. We see its components. Well, we have this one written this way because it's the radical put on the left, but as we'll see, it's mostly identical to the actual kanji, simply shortened the final stroke to put it on the left and smaller. So slanted, left to right, as you can see also from the animation, top to bottom, and then slanted going upwards. And this is the radical from the character, which is for cow, ox. As you can see, the order is practically the same, but without the change of the last stroke. So slanted, left to right, left to right. Actually, as you can see here, there's also the change that we first have the two left to right strokes, and then at last the one top to bottom. So slanted, left to right, top to bottom. As you can see also here with the arrows, we can see its original form. It's a pictograph of a cow, or even better, a bull's head. As for its pronunciations, we have ushi, the strictly Japanese one, unaccented, which means cattle, cow, bull, ox, calf. So cow in general, and then of course depending on, without the specification of it being female or male. And then we technically have several on Yomi Chinese readings, but the one used is Gyu. For example, in the word Gyu New should be an accent, we'll check, which means milk, as in cow's milk. Gyu New And yes, literally is cow and then milk. Okay. Then we can see this one. We have to go back further. This one, it doesn't even show have the stroke order, but simply it's at the top, the slanted, then left to right and top to bottom with the slight curve at the end, and then from left to right, slanted, slanted. Its original form is this one. And so it seems to be, even though not all agree about it, a knife with with 2 drops, so most likely blood, and then was borrowed actually for a negative particle, and that's its actual meaning nowadays. Negation, prohibition. We'll ignore the kunyomi, also considering that nowadays it's not used. More often than not, it's written in kana, but it would be must not, do not, from the imperative form of nashi, from nai, as we've seen before the word nai, to not be, to not exist. And it's most common. There are technically more than one onyomi. For this character specifically, it doesn't matter. Only one is used, but as we'll see, the second one is useful for the kanji we actually want to see. The one used is mochi. For example, in the word, we can also see it down there, mochiron, which means, of course, certainly, naturally, literally, without no debate, no dispute, accented on the chi, mochiron. Quite a useful word. And now we can finally see this our oops, sorry that I'm waited too much. Try to wake up the switch while moving. Okay, perfect. And so we have our compound, our kanji, a phonosemantic compound. We have first on the left the strictly semantic part, and we write it the way we have seen it, slightly different from the kanji for cow, as we go slanted left to right, top to bottom, because we have to end with this slanted to the top. Reminder that it's because then of the way you would write it with a brush. And then we simply write the one for negation, prohibition. So slanted, left to right, top to bottom, slanted, slanted, as you can see also with the animation. Wanted to show it because it's we have seen it a lot before, because it's quite a fundamental word. It's the word for thing, as in an object, because there's another one, as I mentioned before, for thing as in matter, which is koto. This one, thing as in object, is mono, accented on the second one. Yes, on the last one, mono. then there are it can also be used in some grammatical structure, but we won't check those now. Also abbreviated as mon, but mon comes from mono. And its Chinese readings are butsu, which is the most common one. And that's why I told you that be careful that while it wasn't used, that reading in the part that gives its reading, the phonetic part, when used as a kanji on its own, but it gives the pronunciation in this one. And then also motsu and again mochi. While butsu is the most common one, in this case, I think you can find the other ones. But let's see an example for the most common one. There were a lot also at the bottom. For example, dobutsu unaccented, combining it with the kanji for to move, and so thing that moves, animal. You might have heard this word before, dobutsu, as it's in the Japanese title for Animal Crossing, Dobutsu no Mori, literally animal forest. Okay, then we can see the last one. Luckily, we have seen the first the part on the left before. We'll quickly see it again simply because we've seen it with The Legend of Zelda, but I don't think I mentioned the readings there since it was more of an introduction to kanji in general. And of course, we'll definitely play more Zelda games so we can see it. That kanji which had this radical to say for saying. We'll see that kanji again, so we'll study it then. But now let's see the readings of this kanji quickly. Won't repeat the stroke order, but let's go in order. Yeah, we have to go back further since it was a three-step process. First and foremost, mouth. And so we actually have already seen its kunyomi. Sorry, but it's taking a lot since it's used in several languages beyond Japanese. And so yes, it's let's ignore the other kunyomi, which are barely used if at all. The fundamental one is kuchi, unaccented, and means mouth, but also opening and so on. And we have seen it in iriguchi, deguchi, entrance, exit, literally opening mouth from which you enter and exit respectively. Then we have the go on. Ku, I don't think you can often hear it if at all. The most common one is ko. I'm trying to think about a compound, but let's search it this way. Well, I have one in mind, but yes, there are some meanings for ku, but not. Well, for example, oral, verbal is ko, to, combining mouth with head, as we'll eventually see, just to show you that ko is the one the most common reading of Chinese origin. Then we have, of course, as I've just said, the strictly Japanese one, kuchi. Then we have shita, the one, as we'll see, it's strictly Japanese pronunciation, the kanji for tongue, as in the part of the body. Shita is kunyomi, accented on the last syllable, shita. As usual, the E between unvoiced consonant is barely heard, if at all. Let's ignore the go on. The most common one is setsu. Not sure if I can find a compound word with it. Let's see. Of course, this way it finds immediately. That way it actually finds them with zetsu instead. Oh yes, zetsu is actually the most common one. Zetsu. So the go on one, sorry. As we'll see, well, you won't find it that often anyway. And setsu, the unvoiced variant, is useful for compounds, as we'll eventually see. But never mind it for now. So, zetsu. Then we have the one for the verb to say. And so, yes, we have you, unaccented, also pronounced as you, the verb to say. And then we also have koto, different from the one I was mentioning for thing as in matter, at least written with different kanji, but the origin could be the same. And is the word for word. More often than not, you'll find it as in the compound kotoba, accented on the ba, which adds the kanji for leaf, but we won't see it now. And then we have gen, the most common onyomi, can also be used as a word on its own for word, remark, statement. But sometimes you might find also gon. For example, in the compound, I've already seen it below there. An example with gon is mugon, unaccented, silence, as in not speaking, literally. So muteness, but for example, gen, which is the one you'll see more often than not, as in, for example, language, gengo. As we'll see, and funnily enough, the go that we add is the one we'll see next, and it's the one in our title. Okay. Let's see. Let's go back. Let's go back further. To have our go as it's the one we have seen for the word monogatari, which is the one here in this very title. But to have that, first we have to check another part, which is this. The stroke order is like this, left to right, top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom slanted as a single stroke, and left to right, the final one. Left to right, top to bottom slanted, left to right, top to bottom slanted as a single one, left to right. Not sure. Ah, yes, we have also the stroke order, as you can see also here. It was originally kind of an X between two strokes, and it's the word for 5. And one hypothesis, as it says here, it's because when you count with hands, when you arrive to 5, you have to cross to the other hand. And as we'll see, it has the meaning to cross in compounds, but on its own, it's a kanji for 5. We have its strictly Japanese pronunciation itsu, which is 5 in strictly Japanese. We can add, for example, the general purpose counter we have seen before, tsu, to have the word itsutsu, 5 of something that with the general purpose counter. And then we have the gon, the onyomi, which is the same in both gon and kanon, go. And that's the Chinese word for 5. And when used on its own, if you have to say 5 as in the number on its own, then you'd say go. Let's see if it's technically, yes, it's accented, go. Then we have this one that adds a mouth. The phonetic part is our number go. It's technically it then became a word for me. You more often than not don't find this one for this reading, but keep it in mind that ware is a way to say I, not the most common one, as we'll see. And not written, more often than not written with the kanji, but it was worth mentioning. Also because it's actually used with, more often than not, the other kanji, same for ware, but also sometimes with this one, wa, ga. Mai, because ga used to be a particle, a possessive particle, but we'll only find it in modern Japanese, for example, when combined with wa, ga in specific words. For example, waga ko, my child. I'll show it here. And as you can see here, it uses the other kanji, but don't mind it for now. This is the more common one. One's own child, one's own children. But yes, this was just the canon. More often than not, go is the Chinese pronunciation used. The other one, barely if at all. But we needed more than anything else just to have the element for our kanji found in the title. Simply, as you can see, in this quite long stroke order, but it's easier than it looks. Don't mind, don't try to remember all these strokes in order this way. Divide it in pieces. So on the left we have the verb to say, write it as usual, following the rules. Then we have the 1 for 5, write it in its order, and then a mouth at the bottom. Trying to remember these kanji just with the stroke order is the best way to not learn them, considering and also doesn't make sense since again this is our usual phonosemantic compound. We have the semantic part, which is also the radical to say, and then the phonetic part on the right, which gives the pronunciation in Chinese go, in the one from Chinese in Japanese. And yes, that's our onyomi, the Chinese reading. The other one is barely used, if at all. No, it doesn't show there. Accented, but more often than not, you'll find it as a suffix for word term, and even more so for language. For example, English is complicated because of certain reasons. But the Japanese language, you have Nihon, the name for Japan, and then we add Go. All the names for languages, I show it also here. Okay. Nihongo is unaccented. It is quite a useful suffix, both in its usage. We can add it to the names of most countries to get the language specific to that country. For example, my language, Italian, it becomes Itariago. And just like in this case, Nihongo is unaccented, also Itariago is unaccented, as I'll show it now. Itariago unaccented because all the words with this suffix are unaccented, so that's easy to remember, luckily. And then we have the kunyomi, never mind all the other ones. The one that's actually used is kataru, unaccented. As I mentioned before, it's the verb to narrate, also to talk about, to speak of, but better to narrate. And it's the one found by changing the u, because it's a godan verb, u verb, into i, katari, narration, combined with mono. And then, of course, we have also to change the k into g so adding the dakuten because it's a compound, and that can happen. A Japanese compound, a strictly Japanese compound, we get the word monogatari, accented on the ga. And yes, it's a story, tale, narrative, and so on, but story tale, as we've seen before. And so with all that, we finally have seen all the kanji for our game or our title. Sorry that this part took so long, but it was important to finally see some kanji. And as we have seen, there are several basic ones that we've covered, plus additional ones. And studying them by seeing their composition is the best way to remember them, also because, as we have seen, more often than not, the compounds are phonosemantic compounds, and so there's a purely semantic part and a phonetic part, and so that's why it's so important. Okay, I'd say we can take a short break, and then we'll finally start our game. Usual 5 minutes. And we are back. And now we can finally start the game. Actually start the game. As you can see here, there's an intro showing how to draw Kirby. We won't see it for now, but I'm saving it for later. If you wait a little, there's also another intro that shows the controls. I try to save this one as well. Most likely I have to divide it into 2 videos. Okay. Let's do it like this. Now I just show them and also to record them, but we'll check them for all their writings at a later time, just to... Since the other part was already quite focused on the lesson, we'll actually start playing after seeing them all, so that again I can save them for next time. Yeah, it's showing some copy abilities. Makes sense since this is the first game with them. Funny enough, also a boss one. Okay, can save that. Okay, there was also the final part. And now there's the actual story of the game. So I try to record that as well. Okay, like this, hopefully. Maybe I'm dividing them into too many parts, but better safe than sorry. If they're not the best, I'll try to record them again on my own, but at least now we are also showing that they exist. This is the final one. So now Kirby go away, but we don't need to save that. Okay, we can first see these files. We have Kirby, Ichi, and then the word go, which is number. And so Kirby number 1, as in the file number 1, file number 2, file number 3. Since it's go, it should be Ichi, Ni, and San. So with the Chinese readings. And to the right, since they call new files, Hajime Kara should be oops, sorry, hop word, not sure why it said that there were issues. I checked the accent just to be sure, but it should be unaccented. Yes, unaccented from Hajimeru, which is the verb, the transitive form. We have actually seen the intransitive one before. Hajimeru is the transitive one, to start, to begin, so with an object, and without an object, and so something starts, begins, it becomes Hajimaru. We've seen that before, not sure, I think also in Zelda. Yes, so we have in this case Hajime, so the start, as in the word, the noun, Kara, from, a particle postposition that means from, and so from the start. At the bottom we can see we can't actually select it. Kiroku o kesu. I checked the accent as usual, but Kiroku is a record, document, and so on. It's unaccented, okay. Then we have the object particle o. And last but not least, the verb kesu should also be unaccented, but I'll check it. Yes, unaccented, which means to erase, to delete, and so delete the record, and so to delete the save file. Most likely that's why we can select it. Okay, we can start the first file. Vegetable value, also level 1, written in English. The funny intros, loved these in Kirby games. Okay, we can enter the very first level. Being a Kirby game, we can press the start button to see more details, more writings. In this case, it says, well, I'd say we can check it. Well, at least I wanted to show this one and the next one. Well, let's see them. Maybe we can avoid those of other copy abilities. This one says, Teki o hōbatte shagamu to Teki no tokuchō o kopii dekiru. Iroiro na teki o kopii shite B ボタンで特徴を使いこなそう。Okay. First, the first sentence. Teki. Think that, of course, I'll check the accent, but means enemy. Also opponent, rival, but no, actually unaccented, so teki. Yes, as I was saying, also opponent, rival, adversary, but in this case, more often than not, in the context of video games, as the enemy. So, the enemy, an enemy, the enemy, enemies in general, in this particular case, I'd say, or the object particle. Then we have this verb, which I haven't heard before, but I can tell what it is between the context and also its composition. Ho means cheek. Let's see. Okay, yeah. Because ho, it's a compound verb. In this case, compound between a noun and a verb. First and foremost, as I was saying, ho, also written as ho, and pronounced as such, but more often than not, ho, means cheek of the face. And then we add the verb haru. Here it becomes ba because it's a compound, a Japanese compound, strictly Japanese compound, as we've said before, which means to stick, to paste, to affix, but also, and this is our case, to stretch well, actually, it then goes in the other extended meaning, but another meaning is to stretch, to spread, but also to fill, to swell. And so yes, we have to fill, and so fill the cheeks. That's our meaning of hobaru. The verb, the compound verb is accented, so be careful that it's different compared to the base one, which is unaccented. And means to stuff one's cheeks, to fill one's mouth with food. In this case, with an enemy, because of course it's Kirby. It's a Godan verb, U-verb, Godan verb, ending in ru, and so to make the te form, we have to drop the ru and add double te, and so we get obatte by filling one's mouth, one's cheeks, literal, to stuff one's cheeks with an enemy. In Japanese, it's simply an object. And then we have the other verb, shagamu. Let's check its accent, but it means to squat, to crouch. Unaccented, okay, shagamu. And then we have to, which is another way to say, to make the if, when, in Japanese, the conditional. A conditional conjunction. In this case, it's similar to the zero conditional in English, so something when you do that, inevitably, as its natural consequence, the rest of the sentence happens. And yes, if in this case, we get if you crouch while with while stuffing your cheeks with an enemy. Teki no, again enemy, plus the possessive particle no of the enemy. Tokucho, let's check its accent, but its meaning is peculiar, peculiarity, yes, feature, also trait, characteristic, and so on, unaccented. So the peculiarity, the feature of the enemy, then we have the usual object particle o, also pronounced as wo when in careful speech and also, for example, in singing. And then we have copy, although with that long vowel at the end. No, seems simply from English, accented on the first one, copy, also photocopy, but in this case simply copy. And then, last but not least, we have dekiru, which is the verb which means to be able to do, and also by extension to be possible, to be permitted to do, and other meanings, but the fundamental one is to be able to do. We have seen in, I think, during the Legend of Zelda series, that you can have there's a way to make the potential form of a verb to add the meaning can, be able to do. In the case of the verb suru, to do, you don't make it in the same ways as other verbs. You straight up replace it with this one, the kiru, because there's already this verb which has the meaning to be able to do. And so yes, be able, just like you would say copy the noun, copy suru, we add the verb to do, literally to do a copy, so to copy the verb. We replace it with the kiru to have the potential meaning to be able to do, and so be able to copy. So the first sentence is if you crouch while stuffing your cheeks with an enemy, you can copy the feature, the peculiarity of the enemy. Let's see the other sentence. I'll read it again, since Iroiro na tekio kopiste bi botan de dokucho o tsukai konaso. First and foremost, we have iroiro, which is an adjective, as you can see by the following part, na adjective. So you have to add na to put it before a noun to modify that noun. Iroiro, actually unaccented, so iroiro comes, it's the doubling of the word iro, accented on the last one, so be careful, which means color, iro. And so literally would be of different colors. But the word iroiro, because of then gets the extended meaning, which is the one that's actually used, various, a variety of, all sorts of, many, different. And then, of course, as we'll eventually see, you can also use it, change the na into ni to have the adverb, and so also variously, in various ways, in many ways. Sorry, in this particular case, it's actually with to. Usually it's with ni, but there are some with to instead for the adverb, but we'll see that again. For now, focus on the from iro, color, iroiro, becomes various, of all sorts of. And so yes, various. Then we have the na to modify the following noun, which is again the key, enemy, or various enemies, then the object particle o, kopiste, again the verb copy suru. We change suru into its te form. Unfortunately, it's irregular. You just have to remember that it's ste. And so, by copying various enemies, Then we have B, botan, B, the letter B, and then botan, which we have seen before should be unaccented, because it's actually the difference in pronunciation compared to English is because it's actually from Portuguese. Button, yes, it's unaccented. Then we have the particle the with the B button. Tokucho, again, the peculiarity, the feature, then the object particle o. And then the compound verb tsukai konasu. From tsukai konasu, we have seen it during the Legend of Zelda series. Which means also to handle, to manage, but in this case, and also that one, it's to master a tool, to master a technique. Tsukai konasu, accented, comes from, as a reminder, tsukau should be unaccented. Yes, it's unaccented to use. And then konasu. Which means is unaccented. And means, well, to digest, but then also extended meanings, including to finish, to complete, to manage, and then so we get back to, and also as a suffix in compound verbs, to do something well, to do something completely. Or from those that original meaning, to digest, to break down, to crash, and we get to digest in a figurative sense, in a way. Okay, and of course we change it into from su, since it's a verb, Kodan verb, we change it into o, and add au, to have a long o actually, and that's the evolutional form of the verb, and in this case it's let's must, and so the translation is by copying various enemies with the B, let's master the feature, the peculiarity, their ability in the context of Kirby with the B button. Okay, so we got to see that. We can see it in action here, and when we get such a copyability, we get its explanation in the manual. We'll see just this one, and then I promise that at least we'll finish the level before the end of the stream. We won't see other readings, other writings. Of course, we'll then start playing, well, we'll see that the intro we have seen and so on, but let's focus on the writing now. We have Beam, the name. Of course, it's beam from English beam, and it's the name of the ability. Let's check its accent. Beam, accented on the first one, okay. it says Hitotsume kaibutsu ga yoku tsukau beam o hassha dekiru yo. B ボタンを押せばコピーした敵の能力が使えるんだ。First and foremost, we have hitotsu, one with again the general purpose particle, tsu, hitotsu. But in this case, we had also the suffix me, which is the one I was mentioning before, incidentally, when we studied the kanji for I, me. You can add the me to numbers, like for example, in this case, the combination of a number with the general purpose particle, to have the ordinal number. So first, let's check its accent. Okay, the accent goes into the me, so hitotsu me, accented on the last one. Then we have kaibutsu, which means monster. Should be unaccented. Yes, it's unaccented. So the first monster, and then we have ga, the object, the subject particle. We have yoku, which could be either the adverb which from yoi, in the sense, and so its original meaning, which is nicely, well, because yoi means yoi, also pronounced as I, means good. But can also be, by extension, as it becomes also frequently, often. So in this case could be either way, either well or often uses. Again, we have tsukau, which we have just seen to use. Uses well, often uses, maybe better, often uses beam. Beam again. O, the object particle. Hassha means firing, is unaccented, okay. Firing as in the sense also of launching, shooting, and so firing the beam, launching the beam. And then we have again the kiru, be able to, and last but not least the sentence final particle yo, which in this case I'd say means you know, or also hey. The first enemy, you can, it's actually most likely there's an implied you are able to fire the beam because the part before tsukau, from tsukau and before, it's a relative sentence, and so we have you implied can fire the beam, often used by, in this case, actually, hitotsume, instead of being the first, it's a wordplay because it was the very first enemy of the game, but it's also a one-eyed enemy. As we have seen, because it was a waddle-doo, so it's a play on words, because hitotsume can also mean, I've just seen it, but I'll check it again. Yes, it also means literally one-eyed. So it's a wordplay. Japanese love wordplay. So get used to it. Okay, we've seen the first sentence. Let's see the second one. Bibotan o seba kopi shita teki no noryoku ga tsukaeru n da. Again, we have bibotan, the B button, o object particle, oseba from osu should be unaccented. We have seen it in the Legend of Zelda series. Yes, unaccented, which means to push and also to press down to push a button. So push the B button. We change it, it's a U verb, Godan verb. We change the U into E to then add the ba, which is another way to make if, when, so the conditional. This one is more similar to the first conditional, but of course there it isn't always this straightforward. The to is more often than not straight up the zero conditional. This one is a more generic conditional, let's say it that way. So if you press the B button, copy shita, we have again copy suru, to copy, but we change it into the ta form, which is for the past, same as the te form, so unfortunately irregular in the case of suru, and becomes shita, just like shite, shite. To say which was which you copied the past, and again it's actually a relative clause, a short one in this case, that modifies the following: the key enemy, the enemy that you copied, then we have the possessive particle no to connect it and modify the following noun. Noryoku. Now this is the actual word for ability. I checked the accent, that should be unaccented, I think. No, actually accented. My bad. Noryoku. If you have ever heard the Japanese name of the JLPT, the Japanese language certification, Nihongo no Ryoku Shiken, exam of Japanese language ability, literally. So Noryoku means ability, faculty. And yes, this is the actual word for ability, Noryoku. Then we have the subject particle ga. And then the verb tsukaeru nda. First the verb tsukau, again, to use. We change it's a u verb, Kodan verb. We change the u into e. And then add ru, so it becomes a ru verb, an ichidan verb. But that's the way, by changing the vowel from u to e and adding ru, to get the potential form of a Kodan verb, in our case tsukau. And so tsukaeru can use, be able to use. The potential form, as we can see here, requires that what would usually be the object, it becomes the subject. So literally would be the ability can be used. Then last but not least, we have nda, an abbreviated form of noda, which means the expectation is that, the reason is that, the fact is that, and so on. Focus on the fact is that meaning, but of course then we have all the extended ones, because literally we use no. In this case it's another a way to that no stays is just like the koto I mentioned, thing, matter, and so fact. And then we add the copula da. We have also the polite form, of course, no desu, ndesu. So yes, this sentence so means if you press the B button, the ability can, the fact is that the ability of the enemy you copied can be used. Okay, so let's actually play the level and finish it. I keep beam so can actually focus so that at least we have played one level. Sorry that this lesson we didn't play more of the game, but again I wanted to focus on the kanji of the title while we had them. Wanted to check again. Ah yes, one thing I forgot before, the title here, it says Copy ni tsuite. Copy again, copy. And then we have the structure ni tsuite, which means about, on, regarding, concerning. So about copy, copying. It comes from the verb, as you might have guessed, tsuite is a te form from the verb tsuku. There are several ones actually, but this one is a peculiar one, accented, tsuku. So nitsuite should actually technically be accented on the tsu. Tsuku with this kanji has several meanings: to take a seat, position, office, and so on, to assume, to be hired, to be employed. And another meaning. But yes, in this specific form, the te form of the verb tsuku, u verb, godan verb, ending in ku, so we change the passage was that it changed into ki, and then by adding the te, then tsukite, and then became tsuite because it was easier. So nowadays in modern Japanese it's the ku, ku verb becomes ite with in the te form. It's also the ta form, ita. But yes, by adding ni before it, and then of course the noun, it before all that we have concerning about regarding copying. Okay. Sorry, we finish the level, and then I'll have to finish the stream, unfortunately, but at least we played one level. Okay, and funny enough, here's the end of the level. The bonus at the end. Yes, perfect, we actually got it. And we get a 1-up and the classic Kirby dance. As you can see, we have Kirby put the flag here, the door changed color, and so this level is both finished and completed. As you see, there's a difference. Next time, we'll... well, let me first... let's see. I'll try to go back to the title. Let's open it again just to check if it's saved. Yes, 1% level, and then it says Reberu level 1. As in level 1, I think, in the sense of word, because it's the convention in Kirby games. I don't need to watch the animation again. So yes, lucky it seems like it's saved. If it somehow doesn't, then we'll just replay quickly the level. It's quite short, as we have seen. Okay, we can close. And yes, again, sorry that this was a lesson focused more on the lesson part than on the game, but I'd say it was worth learning more kanji. And so we can, technically, after that, we can read the title of the game. And we learned more kanji. Then we finally started the game. We ignored the intro. We'll check that next time. Maybe I'll divide it into more than next time and the following ones as well. We'll see, but at the very least, we'll start it. And then we'll finally continue, actually, play more than one level next time of Kirby's Adventure. Okay, so on Wednesday, as usual, should be. Okay, see you next time.